Let's talk about sweat, baby. Let's talk
Let's
about
talk
you
about you
and me.
and me. Let's talk
Let's talk
about all.
about sweat. Let's talk about sweat.
Wow, wow.
Good morning. It's Honest Kim and the psychic sidekick Annie here with Taboo Topics by Fashion First Aid. As you probably inferred from our phenomenal singing, today we are talking about sweat. Gonna make you sweat, ooh. Gonna make you groove, yeah. That was even worse. So let's start right in. But before we do, make sure you think of what you want to ask the psychic sidekick at the end for your reading. Feel free to type it into group chat or email us at any time. And the psychic sidekick is always ready to give her prediction. So let's get down to the nitty gritty of sweat. What, psychic sidekick Annie, is sweat?
Sweat makes up mostly water, 99% water, and small amounts of salt, proteins, carbohydrates, and that fun stuff called urea. Gross.
Urea. Sounds
Sounds
like anything ends with Rhea is gross.
diarrhea.
Well, now there's two types of sweat glands. So let's do a little poll. How many sweat glands are both types combined on your body? Is it 2,000? Is it 20,000? Is it 200,000? Or is it 2 million? Anyone? Bueller? Anyone?
It looks like I Sweat Way Too Much says 2 million sweat glands.
Yep, the average person has between 2 and 4 million sweat glands. Now, there's two
Woohoo!
types of sweat glands. There's your apocrine glands, which are what we're most familiar with being sweating culprit areas, like your armpits and such. And then it's 11 o'clock. And then we have your eccrine glands, which really cover the surface of your body, and that really just emits water and salt, NaCl, and that helps with temperature regulation. So let's get back to the stuff that we're most grossed out and annoyed by. Mostly let's talk about the apocrine glands. So why do we sweat, Annie?
So when our body starts to heat up, our brain sends a message to our nerves that lead to our 2 to 4 million sweat glands that live under our skin. And then what it does is the moisture goes through our sweat ducts to our skin surface. And then what that does is it actually cools down our body as it evaporates.
And horses do this too, right? But dogs don't, because that's why dogs pant, to cool down, because they don't have these sweat glands like we do, and horses do.
I actually didn't know that, Honest Kim.
uh,
No way!
so, so let's debunk some myths about sweat. Okay, so I
So,
know. Go ahead.
so after a night of drinking, everyone says sometimes you just need to sweat out all the toxins, but it is false that you sweat out toxins. Toxins like alcohol, drugs, and they say mercury actually get filtered through your liver, and so it's actually impossible to sweat out your toxins from a night of
Sometimes it
drinking.
just feels good. It feels good to go for a run or go do something active. And sometimes you just stink. But what's the stink from?
The stink is from bacteria on your skin.
Ah. But yeah, I swear sometimes you can smell like that Indian buffet coming out your pores.
Well, that comes from your the apocrine. Oh, I can't even say
Apocrine?
that word. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I think some of it too could just be you, and it might be your upper lip.
Or it could be your derriere. Maybe some gases are seeking out of your lower region.
Ha 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 ha. That happens always after Indian food. So what about this? Like, I know you associate kind of like big, totally unfit, overweight people with being sweaty. But
Correct.
but I know a lot of fit people are like, well, in the most fit part of my life, I was sweating so much, and people think, oh, fit people don't sweat. Now, is that true or false?
Fit people do sweat a lot.
Yeah, and yeah, because I always thought, like, I was just talking to this girl. She said, "Yeah, I just couldn't stop sweating. I was in like, I was training. I was in the most fit part of my life, and I would sweat all the time. And I was eating healthy. I didn't know what was going on. And it's like, well, because you're fit, your body sweats more quickly and easily because it's used to the temperature regulation."
So, do you have, for some people that have these sweating issues, are there suggestions for how to stop sweat, prevent it, or control it?
Well, I mean, we've all known people that do Botox, right? And they swear by it. They're like, "Oh yeah, I don't sweat anymore from my armpits or wherever they get the treatment." And I've always been scared. I'm like, well, why would you do that? Like, isn't sweat natural? Don't you want to sweat?
Yeah, because you need sweat to cool down your body, otherwise you overheat.
Well, I mean, if you Botoxed your whole body, you would overheat. But I think people just Botox just their, you know, armpits, right? Or just their palms if they have sweaty palms or whatever. So, I mean, probably, because you're not sweating out toxins, right? That's your liver that's doing that. We debunked that. And, if it's just for temperature regulation, it's probably not that bad, right?
Probably not.
Although I
There's
am
some
scared.
side effects, maybe.
I'm always scared about things like that, especially like injecting bovine bacteria into my skin. Um, but there's other things you can do to keep your clothes clean from the sweat, or to keep from having sweat stains in your clothes. There's garment guard, which we make, underarm shields, which is great. And even if you're not that sweaty of a person, it's really good for keeping deodorant marks or just keeping your clothes clean in general.
No more taco stains that you
Or,
get.
saving on dry cleaning, the time it takes to go to the dry cleaner and remembering to pick it up and that sort of thing. So that's pretty cool. Um, and what else can you do? You can just, I think you
For the
can,
extreme, you can do surgery, but I don't think that's recommended.
well, you could also just shower and bathe and wash that area, with scrubbing a little bit more frequently to make sure you get that area clean and keep the bacteria at bay. That'll help with the stink at least.
Or drinking more water to keep your core temperature down.
Well, if you're drinking water to keep your core temperature, then you have more water that you could potentially sweat out too,
True.
right? So, I mean, that might be a double-edged sword.
There's a fine balance, I believe.
A fine balance. Most of it will just come out in your urine, not your urea. All right. Well, that seems like we've got that. Do we have any questions that look like they're exciting?
No questions that are too exciting. What about prescription strength deodorant?
I've never used that. Have you used that?
I haven't. I always my favorite is always a good antiperspirant. I always use the Dove cucumber antiperspirant, and that works pretty well. I've also heard if you put it on at night after a shower, that's when your body's kind of warm and can absorb the deodorant better. That will help with smells and perspiration the following day.
I don't know about that one. I've actually just stopped using antiperspirant. I've gone to just a deodorant, and I mean, I didn't even have anything on one day. I went to play tennis, and at the end, I didn't stink. So I think, remember our topic last week, like what you eat kind of influences your bodily secretions, smells, and scents. So I think, I haven't been drinking because it's January and I'm healthy, and I've been working way too much. But I don't think I stink right now. Plus, it's winter. It's not as like hot and sticky. But I'm telling you,
You smell
maybe
good to me.
I think, ooh, your body, I think, really gets used to what you do. So maybe if you can wean yourself off the chemical stuff, maybe your body might. I'm not saying everyone's different, but it might kind of help you back down, and you might not need something so strong.
Kim, I have someone asking what kind of deodorant you use that's not an antiperspirant.
It's called Kai, Kai. It's a perfume brand that I love the smell of, and it's just a deodorant, not an antiperspirant.
How much does that go for?
It's kind of expensive. I think it's about $22 a thing, but I've had the same one for like over a year now.
I think that's a lot cheaper than my deodorant.
What deodorant do you use, and how much is
I
it?
I use the Dove Cucumber Fresh antiperspirant. I usually get it at Target, and I think I get it for about $6, and it probably lasts me anywhere from 3 to 5 months, depending
Oh,
on if I lose it or not lose it.
how do you lose deodorant?
I don't know. I'm like the sock monster. I think it's just someone takes it. I don't know. Maybe a lot of people I know actually use the same antiperspirant, so I think they might think it's theirs and take it. I don't know.
Dad. Dad, don't come in here. We're doing a podcast, and don't take my deodorant.
Yeah, exactly. I hate it when he borrows my deodorant.
All right, it's that cooling cucumber. Well, I think what we're ready for now is my favorite part of the show. It's the Psychic Sidekick prediction. All right, here we go. Go, Annie.
Hello, this is Psychic Annie. Woo! What does my crystal ball say? Ooh, it's telling me to tell someone not to sweat the small stuff. Yes, and a very important date is coming in the future. I see a 1. Oh, there's another one. And it says February, so February 11th, something big is going to happen. So keep your eyes open. And then I also see a man in your future, a man with a beard. Open your heart to opportunities with a man with a beard. And that's all. Oh, I lost it. That's all I have.
Amazing, amazing Psychic Sidekick. Always happy to have it. So looking forward to February 11th. Well, next week we are talking about the exciting world of breast false advertising. So bigger boobs for next week. See you next Tuesday. Honest Kim and Annie the Psychic Sidekick.
Bye, everyone.